Alright, hello everyone. Happy Monday. I am coming at ya with a video today about the new moon in Libra, which is happening tonight. If you didn't see my video about the Venus retrograde, that's on my page, The Fool and the Chariot, and kind of like all of these videos are kind of additive as they continue to inform each other. Tonight I'm doing a workshop, online workshop, and this is on Monday, October 8th, of around the new moon. This is my first one that I'll be doing, but it's a really good opportunity to connect with some other people, to set intentions, to learn a bit more about the energies that we're working with Libra, and kind of hopefully to have a little bit of a community to like hold each other accountable to, which is perfect for this new moon, which I'll talk more about. Also, if you are interested in having your own birth chart read, it's really way more exciting to learn about all of this stuff in the context of knowing about your own chart. So definitely feel free to reach out. I do personal readings, and then I've got, I'm going to be doing readings at a few different spots this weekend, which are on my page as well. So let's get into it. So the things I'm going to talk about mainly today are this new moon in Libra happening at 15 degrees of Libra, right in the middle there, and I'm going to talk a bit about what new moon energy is good for, and then specifically about, the energy that comes along with Libra, and then, just a little more sort of like general context of other things that are going on right now that help us contextualize this work that we're doing with new moon energy. So, sort of general context for right now, as I mentioned in that other video that I'd made about Venus going retrograde in Scorpio. So this started just a few days ago, maybe about a week ago now. Venus started its path into the underworld. So super intense. Like this year has been a really intense sort of scorpionic time with Jupiter moving through Scorpio, and then we had the Pluto retrograde. And then, now it's getting very personal. So Scorpio brings in a lot of maybe the scarier things that we don't want to look at, some darker truths, sort of like the underbelly. And it can be pretty ruthless. Like, this is a pretty ruthless time right now, and if you're not trying to look in the shadows, or if you're feeling afraid, this can be just like super intense time. And we're learning a lot, sort of like bubbling up internally around fears and traumas and these kinds of things, and collectively. So learning to sit with our shadows and work with our shadows is definitely a major theme of this time of the year. It can be really potent for anyone who's trying to like do magic work, healing work. There's a lot of energy available, and our intuitive sort of like antennas are really strong and powerful, and really fertile time for digging into our own sort of our own magical powers and capacity to, sort of like what is our toolbox for manifesting. And this is an awesome time to get into that, more introspective. And then the other sort of main theme of what we have going on is this Mars has just been pretty active in the last month. It's in square to Venus for quite some time, and that brings in, there's a lot of tension there between what's sort of like bubbling up intuitively, internally, and Mars in Aquarius being way more objective and perhaps a bit like cold and calculating, and not appreciating or respecting as much the deep intuitive messages that we're receiving. And Mars, on the south node of the moon, there's been a lot of sort of like, and then the full moon that happened last time happened right on top of, I think it was either Chiron or Black Moon. Yeah, it was right on top of, I think it was right on top of Chiron in uh, in Aries, and so that was like this wounding around who this wounding around feeling powerful and whole and motivated on a personal level, feeling like I have a purpose here. This is like third chakra kind of work, sacral or solar plexus kind of work. Like I have purpose here, and so there was perhaps a bit of like self-consciousness or just tenderness, wounding. What is my purpose here? What am I doing here? What value do I even bring to anything? And hopefully now that Mars is sort of like moving back, we are feeling a little bit more secure in our bodies, in our work that we do, and able to show up in community. So Libra, now to sort of shift a bit towards what's going on with this new moon. So before Libra, the new moons are when the sun and the moon are at the same degree on top of each other in the zodiac, and so there's like a lot, like really potent amount of this like specific kind of energy that's coming through, and as opposed to the full moon when they're like on opposite ends of the spectrum and there's more like tension. This is an awesome starting point, really important time for setting intentions and goals and like working with the energy of the new moon. So like I mentioned, that's what we're going to talk more about tonight in this workshop. And so, yeah, Libra is the cardinal air sign. The cardinal signs are all initiators, like starting something new. There's a lot of like courage involved in the energies that the cardinal signs bring. And Libra in the zodiac is the first sign that sort of emerges out of subjectivity. So Aries through Virgo, we're kind of just like figuring ourselves out on a personal level. There's like, and what I love about astrology is it like validates that there is so much going on in just our own bodies. Like everything's like fractal and we've got like our own universe basically in here. So Aries through Virgo, yeah, is like figuring that out. And then Libra emerges and is sort of like, okay, now we've all arrived here at this table and we're these like whole versions of ourselves, and now how do we operate and in community together? And so Libra is like super fierce, and often I think Libra gets a bad rep because it has more, ruled by Venus, it has kind of more of like a feminine attributes to it that make it feel sort of like frilly and light and ditzy. Like if you have a Libra sun perhaps, or a Libra rising, maybe sometimes it's hard to be taken seriously. There's sort of this, but Libra is the upholder of justice. It's able to really see, it's the mediator, as I think I mentioned in a video a few ago. Like it can sort of sit between these two people who have just developed a really strong sense of self and have been humbled by Virgo, and then now are here and ready to like participate in this whole way, and it can sort of listen to all different sides of the story. And Libra is really important for holding us accountable to one another. And yeah, I think with this retrograde and with the Venus retrograde in Scorpio right now, Venus the ruler of Libra and the ruler of this new moon, there is a lot, this is a really awesome time to sort of get clear about, if you're not in relationship or partnership, like what do you want in relationship or partnership, or how is it possible to like show up in this like balanced way. Libra also brings in this element of compromise. So in order to, we're never gonna be like, all of us are these unique, and astrology articulates this too, like all of us are these just super unique combinations of different tendencies and tensions and needs. And so in order to show up and be there for each other, there is this element of compromise involved. And so yeah, questions that sort of brings up are like, how can we really earnestly show up to collaborate? Um, and I think the answer with this is like by looking at the shadows. So we've got this little less than 40 days of this Venus retrograde coming up. So whether you're in relationship or partnership or not, it's a really awesome time. And we're all obviously like constantly in relationship with each other, if it's even not just like romantically, just collaborative projects and people that we're working with. Like, how do we sort of look at our shadows and see like what's holding us back from being able to show up in relationship? Like, how, in what ways do we try and this is Scorpio, like what ways do we try and maybe like control or like manipulate things to work out the way that we want them to? And Libra will have none of that. So this is like a really great time to sort of plant this seed so that throughout this Venus retrograde we can really like take some hard look at ourselves. If you're in relationship, look at what is being mirrored back in through relationship, what the other people are saying. With Mercury, Mercury moves into Scorpio tomorrow. This is a time of people like speaking their truths. They're really intense and dark and maybe like scary truths. So yeah, how are we communicating those? How are we listening? Libra is like a really objective sort of like listener. And then Scorpio, as it moves into Scorpio, this is where it's like Libra, it's like sort of these little, I don't know, I imagine kind of like these like orbs, and they're all sort of their own unified whole orbs, and they're all showing up, and we're trying to figure out this pattern of getting each person sort of together. Scorpio's like this fusion of everyone, fusion of merging of money, merging of information, merging of resources. So this is also like letting go of my knowledge or my thing, and also like crediting and being honest about like where, well, I'll sort of pivot a little bit. So we've got this new moon is happening in a square. Squares are really, there's a lot of like tension and conflict in the square, and this is square Pluto, which has just recently moved direct, and it's over there in Capricorn. So I think like this can be Libra really like holds really like holds Pluto and Capricorn and like leaders in check to the collective, accountable to the collective. So like as we're showing up in whatever work we're doing, how are we being transparent? How are we being honest? How are we being accountable to the collective? How are we not like manipulating? Yeah, it's a pretty sort of like complex feeling concept, but because in Scorpio it does kind of all get a bit murky and like all becomes one sort of like bleh. So yeah, and with Mercury there too, there can be this tendency to really shoot some daggers. So I think with this new moon, like setting an intention for ourselves to really reflect about how we collaborate, maybe what shadows come up for us when we are collaborating on a project, or when we're like in relationship with other people, what are some different tendencies that come up. Yeah, and also that like we not only have to hold ourselves accountable, this Pluto in Capricorn moving forward is like, I am my own authority. I went into the depths and I learned, and now I'm here, and now I know, and I know everything. And Libra's like, no, you don't. You have to like listen. So yeah, there's definitely, after these hearings, there's so much coming up right now. And it just feels really important to be like understanding the way the downfall of Libra in this objectivity is not like looking at oppression and like understanding the ways that oppression works. So like we're gonna listen to both sides of the story, and it's like, why are we giving equal weight to the oppressor and the oppressed? Is kind of, a potential like downfall. So Scorpio brings in these like darker like truths that sort of like help frame the situation a little more in its context. Yeah, being accountable to ourselves, being accountable to each other, and, you know, Libra talking about justice, like if we're going to show up in community, and this is like specifically, I'm just feeling really like clear about this right now on a personal level with the work involved in this, but like for white people showing up in community for justice, you know, like we need to look at our own shadows around white supremacy. For able-bodied people, we have to look at our own shadows around ableism. For all of these different, wherever you are in these different systems of power, just not being afraid to like look at how, you know, the different ways in which that's been interwoven into how your modes of our modes of operation, and how we continue to benefit from some of these systems of power. So Libra, with this like sort of fierce, you know, air sign, just can sort of slice through the really, you know, emotional sort of victim complex of people who are maybe having their shit called out right now. Yeah, it's really gonna be an important time for us to figure out like how, like the Mars retrograde that happened, I think was awesome time of like, why do I show up, like why do I act, like what motivates my actions, and like deep reflection around this, and hopefully being able to sort of like name some of those shadows or parts of ourselves that make it harder for us to like earnestly show up. And now with the Venus retrograde in Scorpio, I think we have this another opportunity to be like, okay, what really are my values, and am I acting my values, or am I just like, am I afraid of what my values actually look like in action? And yeah, this new moon's a really good time to sort of like set an intention to be able to be an upholder of justice in community, with this really like sort of bird's eye view perspective of things that are going on, by doing this like deep personal self-analysis. Yeah, lots around relationships and relating to each other and balancing. And yeah, that feels and oh yeah, and then we've got this nice trine going on between the new moon and the sun and Mars. So this is sort of like, we hopefully are feeling a little bit more confident in who we are and what we're bringing here, and what, you know, what we're doing, and are maybe stronger now and ready to like sit with and deal with some of this stuff. Yeah, so that feels all pretty good. I hope that, yeah, this is going to be our last kind of bit of lightness for a bit. Mercury moving in Scorpio, Sun moving in Scorpio, and then this like ongoing Venus and Mars square, and then, you know, we've got some good stuff, lighter stuff coming down the line, but this is some dark times, sort of trippy, surreal times with lots of potential for healing, lots of potential for like creative, creativity, creative projects, and yeah, really deep healing of, takes a lot of courage to get in there and look at some of this stuff. So yeah, that is that. If anybody wants a reading, definitely feel free to reach out, and I'll post the link for the workshop tonight. All right, y'all, I hope you have a peaceful evening, and I'll see you soon.